There is a quiet moment that almost everyone encounters at least once in life. It arrives without noise, without tears, without drama. You wake up, follow familiar routines, speak the same words, complete the same tasks, yet deep inside, something feels missing. Not broken, not destroyed, just absent. You are moving, but not progressing, breathing, but not truly alive. This feeling does not mean you are weak, nor does it mean you have failed. It means your mind is searching for stability in a world that constantly shifts. And it is precisely in this silent confusion that Stoic philosophy begins to speak, softly, slowly, but with a depth that reaches far beyond surface comfort. The Stoics understood something most people overlook. Peace does not come from fixing the world around you. It comes from understanding your place within it. When you feel lost, the cause is rarely a lack of direction. It is more often the exhaustion of trying to control what was never yours to command. You want certainty from the future, validation from others, relief from the past. And in that wanting, your mind tightens. Anxiety grows not because life is cruel, but because expectations are misplaced. Stoicism does not promise immediate happiness. Instead, it offers a single rule, simple in form but sharp enough to cut through confusion. That rule is this: clearly separate what is within your control from what is not. These words sound ordinary, yet they hold extraordinary power. Nearly all human suffering comes from mixing these two categories together. You can control your thoughts, your actions, your values, and your response, but you cannot control outcomes, opinions, timing, or fate. When your peace depends on things outside your control, you surrender your inner world to chaos. The Stoic does not fight reality. He refuses to let reality rule his inner state. Imagine your mind as a deep lake. Storms may rage above the surface. Wind may distort the water. Waves may clash and collide. But the deeper you go, the calmer it becomes. Those who do not understand this Stoic rule spend their lives trying to stop the storm. They grow tired, angry, and hopeless. Those who understand it learn to descend inward to a place untouched by noise. They accept that storms will come, but they do not allow storms to define their peace. This is not emotional coldness. It is disciplined clarity. When you feel lost, ask yourself one honest question. What in this moment is truly within my control? Not what you wish would change, but what you can choose right now. Perhaps it is the way you breathe, the way you speak, the way you continue moving forward even without certainty. Stoicism teaches that you do not need to see the entire path. You only need mastery over the next step. Clarity is built through action, not prediction. Peace does not arrive when life becomes gentle. It arrives when you stop demanding that life obey your preferences. In this disciplined letting go, you do not lose strength. You reclaim it. And when this rule is understood deeply enough, the feeling of being lost begins to fade. Not because you suddenly have all the answers, but because you are no longer asking the wrong questions. This is only the beginning, but it is a beginning strong enough to let your mind finally rest. Once you begin to understand this Stoic rule, something subtle starts to change inside you. The world outside does not suddenly become kinder. People do not immediately behave the way you hope. Uncertainty does not disappear. Yet there is a quiet shift in how deeply these things can reach you. you start to notice that the pain you feel is often not caused by events themselves, but by the meaning you attach to them. The Stoics believed that it is not what happens to us that disturbs us. It is our judgment about what happens. And when you feel lost, it is usually because your judgments have become heavier than reality itself. Consider how often your mind travels away from the present moment. It revisits the past, replaying conversations, mistakes, missed opportunities, as if suffering again might somehow rewrite what has already happened. Or it rushes toward the future, imagining scenarios that may never occur, borrowing fear from days that have not yet arrived. In both cases, you are surrendering the only moment you truly possess. The Stoics viewed this as a quiet theft of life itself. They did not deny memory or planning, but they refused to live inside them. To be lost, in Stoic terms, is to abandon the present in exchange for illusion. There is a Stoic practice that appears simple, yet demands great inner discipline. It is the practice of returning, again and again, to what is immediately before you. What can you do right now, with what you have, where you are? Not later, not when conditions improve, not when clarity magically arrives. Marcus Aurelius wrote that, "You could leave life at any moment. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This is not meant to frighten. It is meant to sharpen awareness. When you remember the fragility of time, confusion loses some of its power. Urgency replaces hesitation. Presence replaces drifting. Feeling lost often carries a hidden belief that you are supposed to have everything figured out by now. The Stoics rejected this illusion completely. They saw life not as a straight path, but as a series of moments that test character. Your role is not to predict every turn, but to meet each one with integrity. When you measure your worth by outcomes, success or failure will control your emotions. When you measure your worth by conduct, no external event can take that from you. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. The Stoic rule of control teaches you to relocate your sense of identity. Instead of asking, "Am I winning? Am I admired? Am I secure?" you begin to ask, "Am I acting with reason? Am I responding with patience? Am I choosing virtue over impulse?" These questions anchor you, even in confusion, even in loss. You are no longer drifting aimlessly. You are standing on principles that do not move when circumstances do. The Stoics believed that a person grounded in virtue is never truly lost, only temporarily uncertain. There is also a quiet humility in Stoic peace. You accept that the universe owes you nothing, not clarity, not comfort, not fairness. This acceptance is not resignation, it is freedom. When you stop demanding guarantees from life, you stop fighting what cannot be changed. Energy once spent on resistance becomes available for growth. You begin to see obstacles not as punishments, but as training. Epictetus taught that difficulties show what men are and what they can become. To feel lost, then, is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to strengthen your inner discipline. Over time, as this mindset deepens, you notice that calm no longer depends on external order. Chaos may still surround you, but it does not define you. You may not know where the road leads, yet you trust your ability to walk it well. This trust is not blind optimism, it is earned confidence in your own character. The Stoics did not seek comfort, they sought steadiness. And in that steadiness, peace naturally followed. If you are lost right now, do not rush to escape the feeling. Observe it, examine it. Ask what it is teaching you about attachment and expectation. Use it as the Stoics would, as raw material for wisdom. You do not need to become someone else. You need to become more fully present. Step by step, choice by choice, breath by breath, the fog begins to thin, not because the world explains itself, but because you have learned how to stand calmly within it. As the Stoic Rule settles deeper into your awareness, you begin to recognize a truth that is both uncomfortable and liberating. Much of what you call being lost is not confusion about direction, it is resistance to reality. You are not lost because life lacks meaning. You feel lost because life refuses to follow the script you imagined. The Stoics never argued with this refusal. Instead, they trained the mind to align itself with what is, rather than what should have been. This alignment is not passive acceptance. It is intelligent cooperation with reality. One of the most powerful Stoic ideas is amor fati, the love of fate. Not mere tolerance, not quiet endurance, but an active embrace of everything that happens. When something unexpected occurs, the Stoic does not ask, "Why me?" or "How do I escape this?" He asks, "How can this be used?" This single shift transforms adversity into material for growth. What once felt like an obstacle becomes a teacher. What once felt like loss becomes refinement. To love fate is to stop seeing life as an enemy and start seeing it as a training ground for the soul. When you feel lost, it is often because you are standing at the edge of change. The familiar has collapsed. The new has not yet taken shape. In this in-between space, the mind panics. It searches for certainty, clings to old identities, resists transformation. The Stoics understood this space well. They knew that character is formed not during comfort, but during transition. To remain calm while everything is unclear, this is the mark of inner strength. You are not meant to feel certain here. You are meant to practice steadiness. There is a Stoic exercise that helps anchor the mind during uncertainty. It is called negative visualization. You imagine losing what you currently possess, not to frighten yourself, but to appreciate impermanence. When you remember that everything can be taken away, you stop treating it as guaranteed. Gratitude replaces entitlement. Presence replaces fear. Paradoxically, by accepting loss in advance, you loosen its grip on your peace. What you no longer cling to cannot control you. Being lost also exposes how deeply you attach your identity to roles and outcomes. You think you are your career, your status, your achievements, your progress. When these become unstable, your sense of self collapses. The Stoics rejected this fragile identity. They defined the self through character alone. You are not what happens to you. You are how you respond. This distinction is subtle, but it creates unshakable ground beneath your feet. Even if everything external changes, you remain intact. The Stoic does not ask life to be easy. He asks himself to be resilient. Resilience in Stoic terms is not emotional numbness. It is emotional mastery. You feel fear, but you do not obey it. You feel doubt, but you do not surrender to it. Emotions arise naturally. Suffering begins when you identify with them. The Stoics taught that thoughts are impressions, not commands. You can observe them, question them, choose whether to accept them. This mental distance restores clarity. Over time, this practice builds quiet confidence. You stop needing constant reassurance from the world. You stop rushing toward answers. You learn to move forward without certainty, guided by principles rather than predictions. This is why the Stoics were calm in chaos. They trusted their inner compass more than external signs. To feel lost, then, is not to lack direction. It is to be invited to strengthen that compass. If your life feels unclear right now, resist the urge to escape the discomfort. Stay with it, without judgment, without panic. Ask not, where is this leading, but who am I becoming through this? The Stoic path is not about controlling the future. It is about preparing the mind. When the mind is prepared, no situation is overwhelming. The fog lifts gradually, not because the road becomes visible, but because you no longer fear walking without a map. As your understanding matures, the Stoic Rule stops being an idea and starts becoming a way of living. You no longer remind yourself occasionally about control and acceptance. It quietly guides your reactions. When something goes wrong, there is a pause instead of panic. In that pause, you regain choice. The Stoics believed this pause was sacred because it is where freedom lives. Between event and response, you reclaim authorship of your inner life. This is where a lost mind begins to feel grounded again. One reason people remain lost for so long is that they mistake movement for progress. They stay busy, constantly changing direction, consuming advice, chasing motivation, yet never developing inner stability. Stoicism warns against this restless search. Clarity does not arrive through constant motion. It arrives through alignment. When your actions match your values, confusion loses its grip. The Stoic does not ask, "What should I chase next?" He asks, "What kind of person should I be in this moment?" This shift replaces anxiety with purpose. A central Stoic practice is voluntary discomfort. At first, it sounds strange, even unnecessary. Why choose hardship when life already provides enough? Yet the Stoics understood human psychology deeply. When comfort becomes expectation, fear of loss controls behavior. By occasionally choosing discomfort, simple food, cold water, silence, solitude, you train the mind to realize that it can endure more than it believes. This training dissolves hidden fear. When you are no longer afraid of discomfort, uncertainty loses much of its power over you. Feeling lost is often intensified by comparison. You look at others and imagine they are ahead, more successful, more certain, more fulfilled. The Stoics dismissed comparison as a trap. You do not live another person's life. You live yours. Measuring your progress against someone else's path creates artificial suffering. The only meaningful comparison for a Stoic is between who you were yesterday and who you are choosing to be today. This inward measurement restores focus and dignity. The Stoics also practiced daily reflection. At the end of each day, they reviewed their actions, not with harsh judgment, but with honest observation. Where did I act according to reason? Where did I act from impulse? Where did I allow externals to disturb my peace? This practice turns life into a classroom. Mistakes become lessons, not labels. Over time, reflection replaces regret. You stop fearing failure because failure becomes feedback. Another reason people feel lost is their obsession with outcome. They believe meaning exists only in success. The Stoics dismantled this belief entirely. They taught that outcomes are borrowed. Effort is owned. You can act with excellence, yet still fail by external standards. That does not diminish the value of your action. When you focus on effort and intention, you free yourself from the tyranny of results. This freedom creates steady motivation, not dependent on praise or reward. There is a quiet strength that develops when you stop negotiating with reality. You accept what happens without surrendering your principles. This balance is rare, but transformative. You do not become passive. You become precise. You choose your battles wisely. You invest energy where it matters. Within your character, this is why Stoic peace is stable, not fragile. It is built on internal structure, not external conditions. As this structure strengthens, the feeling of being lost begins to feel less threatening. You may still not know where life is leading, but you trust your capacity to respond well. You realize that direction is not something you find, it is something you practice. Each moment becomes an opportunity to choose patience over anger, clarity over confusion, virtue over fear. This practice gives shape to life, even in uncertainty. In Stoic philosophy, peace is not a destination, it is a byproduct. It emerges naturally when your inner life is disciplined. You stop demanding that life provide meaning. You create meaning through how you live. When you understand this, being lost no longer feels like an enemy. It becomes a signal inviting you to return inward, to realign, to stand firmly in what you can control. And in that firmness, calm begins to settle, not loudly, but with quiet authority. At this stage of the Stoic journey, something profound becomes clear. The feeling of being lost was never meant to be eliminated. It was meant to be understood. The Stoics did not seek a life without uncertainty. They sought a mind that could remain steady within it. When you stop fighting the sensation of not knowing, it loses its sharpness. You begin to see it not as a threat, but as a natural state of being human. This shift softens the inner struggle, and in that softness, strength quietly grows. Many people believe peace arrives once answers are found. The Stoics believed the opposite. Peace arrives when you no longer demand answers before you are willing to live well. Life does not reveal its direction all at once. It unfolds through action. Waiting for clarity before moving forward keeps you frozen. Stoicism teaches movement without attachment to outcome. You act because it is right, not because it guarantees success. This mindset breaks paralysis and restores momentum. One of the most grounding Stoic ideas is the concept of duty. Not duty imposed by society, but duty chosen through reason. Your duty is to act with honesty, with courage, with restraint, and with wisdom, regardless of circumstance. When you orient your life around duty, direction emerges naturally. You no longer ask, "What should I do with my life?" You ask, "What is required of me right now?" This question simplifies existence and anchors your choices. Being lost often feels like standing in darkness, searching for a distant light. Stoicism teaches you to light the ground beneath your feet instead. Small acts done with intention create stability. Speak truthfully. Even when it is uncomfortable, act fairly. Even when it is unnoticed, remain patient, even when provoked. These actions may seem small, but they compound over time. A life built on consistent principles does not drift. It moves quietly but surely. The Stoics also warned against emotional storytelling. The mind has a habit of exaggeration. A setback becomes a catastrophe. Uncertainty becomes doom. Delay becomes failure. Stoicism trains you to strip events down to facts, what happened, and nothing more. By removing interpretation, emotional intensity fades. You stop feeding fear with imagination. This clarity allows you to respond intelligently rather than react impulsively. Another powerful Stoic practice is gratitude grounded in impermanence. When you remember that nothing is guaranteed, you value what is present without clinging to it. Gratitude does not deny pain. It balances perspective. Even in confusion, there are moments of breath, moments of stillness, moments of choice. The Stoics believed that noticing these moments strengthens resilience. You are reminded that peace is available, even when answers are not. As you internalize these ideas, the fear of being lost slowly transforms. You no longer rush to escape it. You understand that identity is not discovered in certainty. It is forged in conduct. The question shifts from, "Where am I going?" to, "How am I walking?" This shift brings dignity to every step. You become less concerned with speed, more concerned with direction of character. Eventually, you realize that many people who appear certain are simply avoiding reflection. The Stoic does not fear reflection. He welcomes it. To sit with uncertainty without distraction is a form of courage. It means you trust your ability to endure discomfort without betraying your values. This trust is the foundation of inner peace. If you feel lost now, let this feeling slow you down rather than break you apart. Use it as a signal to return to fundamentals. Control what you can, release what you cannot, act with virtue, and accept the rest. The Stoics believed that a person who lives this way is never truly lost. He may not know what tomorrow holds, but he knows who he is today. And that knowledge is enough to move forward with calm confidence. In the final stage of this reflection, the Stoic Rule no longer feels like guidance from the outside. It becomes a quiet voice within you. You stop reaching for peace as if it were something distant, something to be earned later. You realize that peace has always been available, hidden beneath resistance, expectation, and fear. The Stoics taught that when the mind stops arguing with reality, calm emerges naturally, not as excitement, not as pleasure, but as steadiness. And steadiness is what carries you through life when certainty is absent. By now, you understand that being lost does not mean being broken. It means you have arrived at a moment where old maps no longer work. This moment feels uncomfortable because it demands responsibility. No one else can decide for you what matters. No external success can define your worth. Stoicism places the weight gently but firmly back into your hands. You may not control where life pushes you, but you always control how you stand. This realization is both sobering and empowering. The Stoics believed that a well-lived life is built moment by moment, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through consistent inner order. Each time you choose patience over anger, honesty over convenience, restraint over impulse, you reinforce that order. Over time, this becomes character, and character becomes direction. You stop needing to know where everything leads because you trust the principles guiding your steps. A person who trusts his principles is never directionless. There is also a quiet freedom that comes from accepting limits. You accept that you cannot save everyone, cannot fix everything, cannot foresee every outcome. This acceptance does not make you smaller, it makes you focused. You conserve energy for what truly matters. The Stoics understood that peace grows when attention is disciplined, when you stop scattering yourself across worry, regret, and anticipation. You gather strength. That strength feels like calm. When life feels overwhelming, return to the simplest Stoic questions. What is happening right now? What part of this is mine to handle? And what can I let go? These questions cut through complexity. They bring the mind back from abstraction to action. Even in chaos, you regain clarity. Even in doubt, you regain balance. This is not philosophy for comfort. It is philosophy for survival. Over time, you will notice something subtle but powerful. You no longer describe yourself as lost. You may say, I am learning. I am adjusting. I am becoming. The language of defeat disappears. In its place grows quiet confidence. Not confidence that everything will work out, but confidence that you will meet whatever comes with dignity. This is the Stoic definition of peace. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate struggle, but to remove unnecessary suffering. Life will challenge you, test you, humble you. Stoicism does not promise protection from this. It promises preparation. And preparation changes everything. When the mind is trained, even uncertainty feels manageable. Even silence feels meaningful. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to pause, breathe, and reflect on one thing you can control today. Then act on it calmly, deliberately, without seeking approval. And if you want to continue walking this Stoic path together, listen closely. Subscribe to Stoic Penglai and return for the next reflection. Peace is built slowly, and this journey has only just begun.